Hello, my dear friends. Parshas Korach is enormously relevant because it deals with machlokas. And unfortunately, the world today is full of machlokas. Our inner world, our inner circles, our outer circles, the world at large, everybody is busy fighting and angry at each other. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, there's two types of machlokas. There are good machlokas and bad machlokas. The good machlokas is the machlokas of Hillel and Shammai. Hillel and Shammai were two great Torah sages from the period of the Mishnah. Their arguments, they argued on numerous things throughout the Mishnayos and Shas, but that was the machlokas l'shem shemayim, for the sake of heaven. But Korach, Korach and his entourage, who argued with Moshe Rabbeinu, that was the machlokas not l'shem shemayim. What is the inherent difference between a machlokas l'shem shemayim and not l'shem shemayim? The difference is that a machlokas l'shem shemayim, there's only one machlokas, and that is the l'shem shemayim. There's an issue. In the case of Hillel and Shammai, there's a halachic issue that they were discussing. That was the only machlokas. That was the only argument. In a machlokas, it's not l'shem shemayim. There's always at least two levels of the machlokas. There's the apparent machlokas, there's what they claim they're arguing about, and then there's the real issue, the hidden agenda. That is the part that's not l'shem shemayim. Korach presented himself as a champion of the people. He said, Kolei de kulam kedoshim, everybody's holy. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu appoint themselves, make a caste system, appoint themselves at a higher level than everybody else? The whole nation's holy. That was the apparent machlokas. And Korach made himself out to be a big tzaddik. But what was the real machlokas? Rashi says Korach was jealous because Moshe appointed his nephew to be head of the tribe. And Korach thought that I deserve that kavod. He didn't express that. He didn't tell anybody that's what it was. But that was the inner machlokas. So there was two levels to machlokas, and that's always the case. When there's a machlokas, it's not l'shem shemayim. It means that, irrespective of what the person is saying, there's another issue that's driving the machlokas. So the big question is, how does a person know which machlokas it is? We get drawn into machlokas all the time. How does a person know if his motives are pure? How does he know or she know if it is indeed a machlokas l'shem shemayim? So I want to suggest 3 acid tests to tell if a machlokas is l'shem shemayim or not l'shem shemayim. The first is, in a machlokas l'shem shemayim, the people treat each other with respect. They're not angry with each other. They're arguing about an issue. It has nothing to do, it's not personalized. A machlokas shelo l'shem shemayim, there's always demonization of the person. Rashi says, he quotes Chazal, that Korach made leitzanis for Moshe. He ridiculed Moshe. And he asked him halachic questions. He says, if a person's wearing a garment and it's made out of techelos, which is the certain colored dye that they used to have, and in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, or the time when they had the techelos, so there was one strand out of the 8 strands that had to be the color of techelos. So Korach says, let's say you have the whole garment is the color, techelos is like a bluish color. Let's say the whole garment is blue. So do you have to wear tzitzis? So Moshe says you still have to wear tzitzis. So Korach made fun. If one strand of techelos is enough for a garment, so if the whole garment is techelos, what do you need strands altogether? It's a fallacious argument. It's hard to even understand what Korach was thinking. What's his point? But the essence of it was that Korach was looking for a way to ridicule Moshe Rabbeinu. When Dastan and Moshe Aviram were part of Korach's entourage. And when Moshe Rabbeinu called to Dastan and Aviram, he said, I want to talk to you. So what did they say? Ha'eni ha'nashim ha'heim tenakir, lo nala. Even if you poke out our eyes, ha'eni ha'nashim ha'heim tenakir, even if you poke out our eyes, we're not going to talk to you. Who's talking about poking out their eyes? Did Moshe say, if you don't come, I'm going to poke out your eyes? That was their way of demonizing Moshe and say, Moshe, he's threatening us. He's gonna blind us. That was the demonization of Moshe and Aaron. So that's the first way that you could tell if a machlokas is l'shem shemayim or not l'shem shemayim. If the people treat each other with respect. The Gemara says in Yevamos that Hillel and Shammai, even though they argued about so many things, nonetheless they were noagim kavod zeh b'zeh. They treated each other with great respect. The Gemara says, "Shechiba v'reyas nogim zeh b'zeh." There was friendship and camaraderie between the two of them. The pasuk says that peace and truth coexisted. That's the machlokas l'shem shemayim. There's peace. There's shalom. There's no animosity. There's no hatred. There's no demonization. They coexist. And Hillel and Shammai, they were no against kavod zeh. They treated each other with kavod, and that was the exact opposite of Korach and Dasan Aviram. They made fun of Moshe. They argued with him. They criticized him. They demonized him. That's a machlokas. It's not l'shem shemayim. And this rings so true to today. With so many of the fights are not about. They claim to be about issues, but people are busy demonizing each other and putting each other down. That's not a machlokas l'shem shemayim. The second is that a machlokas l'shem shemayim, there are lies. The people don't tell the truth. The people distort because they feel the ends justifies the means, so they can make up whatever nonsense they want. Dasan Aviram said to Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe wanted to talk to him, so Moshe Rabbeinu said, "You told us you were going to take us to Eretz Zavas Cholav Udavash. You're going to bring us to the land of milk and honey." So he says, "You didn't take us. You didn't take us to the land of Cholav Udavash. What did you do instead? You took us out of the land of milk and honey. You took us. It's not enough. It's not bad enough that you took us out of Mitzrayim. The absurdity, the phrase Eretz Zavas Cholav Udavash was reserved to describe Eretz Yisrael. It was a land of flowing milk and honey, the beauty of the produce and the crops. Mitzrayim was a land of deserts and sand dunes. It wasn't. They had to irrigate the land with the Nile. It wasn't the land of Eretz Zavas Cholav. But it was a lie. It was a blatant lie. But they took the description of Eretz Yisrael and they said, that's what we had in Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, they were slaves. They had a horrible existence, but they made it seem, they painted as if, wow, we had such a super wonderful time in Mitzrayim. We were treated in such a beautiful way. There was so much to eat and so much food. Slaves don't have a lot of food to eat. But those are lies. That's the second way you could tell if a machlokas is not l'shem shemayim, when people make up things that are absolutely not true and false. The third way to tell if a machlokas is not l'shem shemayim is that what it'll be if a person has the choice. Somebody will come along and say, look, I have a magic wand. You're having an argument with somebody. I have a magic wand. I could make the machlokas go away. I could resolve the whole thing with my magic wand. Or I could resolve it by negotiation. So if a person is arguing with Shem Shemayim, he says, of course, I would love that. Why do I have to have a disagreement with somebody? Go ahead and resolve it. But when the machlokas is not L'Shem Shemayim, people love the argument. They love to be able to fight. Even if you would give them a resolution, they were not going to leave go. There's a famous mashal that's quoted in the name of Rav Chaim. If you walk past the house and you see there's mice running through the house, and chasing the mice are cats, and also the housewife has a broom and she's chasing the mouse with her broom. So Rav Chaim says it looks like they're both doing the same thing, but it's totally different. The housewife, if she could get rid of if somebody would say, I'll take out the mice from your house, she would be elated. What do I have to run after the mice with a broom? Please take them away. But if you would ask the cat, if there would be a talking cat, if you would ask the cat, I could remove the mice, the cat would say, absolutely not. Because that cat is having a blast. The cat is having a ball. He's chasing after those blasted mice. He's running after them. It's the thrill of his life. And that's the difference. People that are engaged in machlokas, that's not l'shem shemayim, it's the thrill of the machlokas. They're enthralled. They're so excited. They have nothing else to do with their time. They're busy having fights and arguments, and that animates them, and it gives them meaning and purpose. And they fool themselves into thinking that they're fighting for an ideal. And if you could resolve the ideal, they're not interested in having it resolved, because the fight is what's motivating them, not the issue. It's the fight. It's the argument, it's the disagreement, it's the ability to hurl insults at the other person. And sometimes you see it on the blogs. that you read the blogs, they're not interested in the issue. They're interested in deriding each other, in attacking each other, and writing these long memos about how terrible this one is and that one. So that's the third difference between a machlokas l'shem shemaim and not l'shem shemaim. But Moshe Rabbeinu called Dasan v'Aviran. He wanted to talk to them. And the Chazal say, why did Moshe call them? Because they machzikim machlokas. Moshe, even though they had insulted him already, Moshe did not want to have a machlokas. He was ready to let go. But what did they say? Lo nala. We're not interested in talking to you. We don't want to have a conversation. Why don't they want to have a conversation? That's inherent in the same thing. When people are not fighting l'shem shemayim, they don't want to have a discussion because the discussion might resolve the issue. So why should they have a discussion? They don't want this. They want to continue fighting, and therefore they're not willing to have a conversation. So that's the third giveaway of a machlokas. It's not l'shem shemayim, where people are like Dasan v'Avira and they say, "Oh, nala, we're not interested in talking to you. We're not interested in resolving the issue." So those are 3 acid tests. There's more as well, but those are 3 simple ways of telling if a machlokas is l'shem shemayim. When people demonize each other, when people are angry, when people hate each other, that's a sure sign that it's a machlokas shelo l'shem shemayim, as opposed to machlokas where people treat each other with respect. When people are dishonest and they fabricate, that's a second sign of a machlokas. It's not l'shem shemayim. And finally, when people are not interested in resolving the issue, there are certain leaders of communities who refuse to allow things to be resolved because it's self-promotion. They use the machlokas in order to elevate themselves to a higher position. That's the machlokas is the goal, not the issue. It's the everything is the machlokas. Everything is the fight. It's not if you win the fight. It's the fight. That's the main thing that's so important is fighting. So that's the third sign that it's not a machlokas l'shem shemayim. Unfortunately, we're drawn into machlokas all the times, and a person has to be extremely careful. Machlokas is poison. Machlokas is dangerous. Machlokas is destructive. And if we ourselves, a person should never allow himself to be drawn into machlokas. But if a person feels that he's being drawn in, then he should use these 3 acid tests to tell whether it's a machlokas l'shem shemayim. Is there another agenda, or is there only one issue, and that is l'shem shemayim? And let's hope that rather than have machlokas l'shem shemayim, we shouldn't have any machlokas at all, and there should be shalom al Yisrael.